let's talk about. Uh, let me just finish what I was saying initially about what I was reading on my birth certificate. It was telling me that my father was living at 219 Keep Street in Brooklyn, New York,
Right.
which I'm not sure is the exact home of his parents, which would say that when I was born, my father and mother were living with their parents. Uh, that may very well be, or it might be another number on Keep Street, but I know that Keep Street is the place that my contact with my paternal grandparents was at Cape Street. This is telling me it's 219 Cape Street, and I don't remember.
Wait,
And the
day of birth? My bad.
date of birth is November 28, 1926. I was born to Oscar and Bessie Fensterheim. Apparently, they were both the same age because, according to this, they were both 26 years old when I was born. And this birth certificate tells me he was a lawyer and she was a housewife. And uh, they were both the same age. I was born in Dr. Left's hospital, which to me, I believe was in the Bronx, but I don't understand that part because I was born in Brooklyn. Peep Street is in Brooklyn, and I don't know how that comes. Maybe there was another Dr. Left's hospital. You notice it's a Dr. Left's hospital and not a hospital named after like Maimonides or Mount Sinai or one of those
Right.
kind of
Like, sounds like a
religious
clinic.
places. It's like a little place, which means that I was born in a hospital and not in a home with a
Midwife.
midwife. Might be in a home, but maybe it's a midwife in a hospital. Might be Dr. Left's hospital is a little hospital. Any case, to talk about my grandparents, we'll talk about first of all my father's father, whose name was uh,
Samuel.
Chaim Shlomo Samuel Fensterheim, and my recollections of him go back primarily to my meetings with him when we had Hanukkah parties. Every Hanukkah, we would go to Keep Street, and it would be the Fensterheim end of the family, not my mother's side, but it was my father's side. My father had about 10 siblings. The oldest one uh, was Harry. The oldest living one was Harry. And if you want to know about my uncles, David, if we have room, I could tell you a lot about all of them. But we'll leave it up to you if you want to hear later. But Harry was the oldest one. But my understanding was he was not the Bechor family. Since Harry was not the Bechor, there was one before Harry that didn't live and took the place of being the Bechor. So Harry was not the Bechor. And if you want, I'll list all the other brothers and sisters of my father. If you want me to do that right now, that's up to
Yeah,
you.
go through the list. Before you begin, just a second. Before you get father's siblings, let's Chaim Shlomo, Samuel. Any idea? And I asked this my father. He didn't know. Samuel was his Hebrew English name. Chaim Shlomo was his Hebrew name. But what's interesting is that Samuel is not Solomon. He's
No, I'm Shlomo, but he was Samuel Fensterheim. I don't know him as any other name,
right.
Samuel. And my understanding was that he was in insurance business, and also he had some bats. Talk about BATHS bats. I don't know, never really know what that meant, but uh, was that mikvahs or was that just regular bats? And uh, they had also a relationship with a garage, but that might come a little later. It was called the LB garage. I don't know what LB stands for. L for Larry, B for Bravo, but I don't know really what that's significant. I know my uncle, my father's brother Dave, and Kelly were associated with LB Garage, which I believe was in the Lower East Side. If they were living in Brooklyn and this stuff was in the Lower East Side, uh, there's a little difference in geography there, but they're close together. They lived in Williamsburg, Brooklyn, on Keep Street. If you want, I'll tell you about the Hanukkah parties, which are very interesting.
Yeah, yeah,
Uh,
do that.
huh?
I want to hear Hanukkah
Yeah,
parties.
Hanukkah parties were usually on Sunday of Hanukkah, and they were well attended by all my father's siblings who were married. So I remember most of them were married, except for his sister Eva, who was married uh, to Irving Kittak, uh, and I don't know enough about that relationship. In any case, what happened was all the siblings got together and the children of the siblings. Interesting enough, if my father had 10 siblings approximately, and they were all married, and my mother had also 10 siblings, that would mean that I had 40 uncles and aunts,
Right,
which is
right.
a lot of uncles and aunts. And that means, and each one of them had about two kids or two and a half kids. So there's a lot of uh, cousins I would have. In any case, Sunday Hanukkah came along, and we all met in Cape Street. And this was um, a house, a brownstone. That's the kind of house it was, with a stoop. And you walked up the steps and walked inside, and you got the first room was like a big living room and a bedroom, etc. Living room combination. And then they walked inside to the kitchen. In any case, on Hanukkah, there was a custom of giving Hanukkah gelt. And my grandfather every year would give all of his grandchildren a silver dollar. At that time, the silver was real silver, and everybody, or at least as far as I know, most of the kids kept their silver dollars, and I still have them. And the silver price of silver is inflated quite a bit right now, so each silver dollar is a good investment. I don't know exactly how much they're worth now, but I would assume that the
It's
silver dollar is worth in excess of about 35, $40
yeah.
just for the silver itself. And then depending upon the uh,
But it's the sentimental value that's important,
how
not the
good it is, but the
value.
sentimental value, and I still have them, and they're in a safe deposit box somewhere. Now, interesting enough, my uncles, who were all there, also gave Hanukkah gelt to all the kids, but they usually gave a quarter. And in those days, it was a silver quarter, and we kept the quarters and the dollars.
No, 1 second. Let me interrupt you. Second. With the equals, we're talking about the Fensterheim, his siblings, not
And
mother.
the only ones at this party, Hanukkah party, were my father's relatives. There were no other, not from my mother's side, just from my father's side.
Right, right.
And the normal Hanukkah latkes and stuff like that was there also. Also, there was at that time we had seltzer in the seltzer bottles with the handle on it that you squeeze, and the guy came along to collect back the bottles and fill them
Right.
up again. You know which ones I mean.
Was your grandmother? What's grandmother? You talked
Well,
about
I'll
grandfather.
tell you about my grandmother when I finish a little bit more about the Hanukkah party. My father had a sister. Her name was Anna, and Anna was married to Mo Langa. Mo Langa was one of my uncles, but he was not my father's brother. He was one of my father's brother-in-laws.
Brother was here.
Mo Langa was had knitting mills in New Jersey, in Bergen County, New Jersey, and did fairly well with the knitting mills, and also occasionally employed one of his wife's brothers who worked in the knitting mills. I think Moe, one of my father's brothers, and maybe Joey also worked for Mo Langa, and Mo Langa did very well. And as I said before, my grandfather gave out silver dollars, and my uncles gave out quarters, and my uncle Mo, who was there occasionally, or most I remember him giving out $5 bills
Right,
to
right.
people because he was like,
He was the successful one.
he was very wealthy. Molanga had knitting mills.
And he brought in his brother-in-law, son brother-in-laws to the business.
He brought into, well, he brought and gave them jobs at the business. I don't know how they, I don't know, they got a piece of the action, but they just were workers there,
Right, right.
uh, working at the machines because he had knitting machines. Also,
Speaking of the language, I don't know if you realize that my brother-in-law his wife is the sister to a son of Lee Lang. So our family's kind of
yeah, well,
sorry, daughter of Lee's, right?
Molanga
The
had
daughter married my brother.
Mo and Anna Langa had three children: Morty,
Morty, right?
Jeannie, and Lee.
Right.
Lee was called Lishi. Uh, Lishi. Uh, and Morty has passed away, and I could tell you all about them as we go along.
Okay.
You have to guide me because I have so much to talk about that. Anyway, to go back to my grandfather,
Right, right.
my grandfather, as I understand it, was one of the founders of Yeshiva Torah Vodaas in Brooklyn, which is a recognized yeshiva, and uh, he spoke English. Came here, as I understand it, as a young boy. I always thought it was before Bar Mitzvah, but I would correct that to say he came here after he was Bar Mitzvah and before he was married. My
Came with his father, with his parents.
came, I would assume he came with his parents, and his parents,
So that would be the 1890s.
that was, I think one of his parents was Yecheskel. Uh,
So your father was named after his
Father was
grandfather.
named after his grandfather, but I'm blanking a little bit on that because I might have been my father named after his grandfather. But anyway, they are buried in Union Field, Brooklyn. I believe my grandfather and his father are both buried there, and maybe his father's father, but I'm not sure of that. In any case,
One
the
second. You're saying that your great grandfather came over well to America.
well, he's buried here.
Right here.
Yeah,
Did you hear anything about his relationship to Bubba the Chassis? That
no,
your grandfather Samuel used to support the Bubba of Yeshivas in Europe from America.
I read about it in some of the information that we have, but I don't know any firsthand information about that.
Right. Okay. Okay.
Okay, so as far as my grandfather is concerned, I could, if you want to know some more memories of him, I have memories of him starting building a sukkah right after Yom Kippur, and uh, not the day after, but usually a night
Right.
after. I'm trying to figure out what I was doing there for Yom Kippur, but I don't really know that.
So that was,
Some reason
remember
or
he
other,
was
I
on you when you born they were your parents seem to have been living with grandfather on Key Street.
Yes, either in the same house or next door because the address on this birth certificate is Keep Street and we're living in Keep Street in the brownstone.
And when did you when did your father move out of there?
I don't know exactly when, but we moved out of there too. I lived in Bensonhurst, Brooklyn.
Bensonhurst.
Yeah, I'll tell you about that too. In
Okay.
any case, just wanted to give you that recollection about him right away going to build a sukkah on Yom Kippur right after, that's when you're supposed to start building your
Yeah,
sukkah.
that tradition's the reason my demons was. Okay,
And he used
let
to
me
do that.
see if
I
I
can tell you
can.
about my grandmother if you would like.
Let
Okay,
me try start this. Maybe you can create files. Hold on a
go
second.
ahead. Go ahead.